Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 Career Mode, episode number 56 today for the Italian Grand Prix here in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Belgian Grand Prix, then be sure to check that one out before you see this one. A really successful and fun episode there for myself. But we go into this one then with no upgrades actually for the Italian Grand Prix. We talked about maybe saving some R&D points and maybe saving that up for an ultimate upgrade or potentially an R&D reset later on. Looks like Red Bull have had a minor upgrade coming into this, so they are literally, I can't even distinguish the difference between McLaren and Red Bull on that performance chart there. And then a lot of the grid are really stagnated off the back of the Belgian Grand Prix, maybe saving resource points for bigger upgrades like us, or maybe just for the Singapore Grand Prix maybe coming up. And then you can see Toro Rosso there in the bottom three to improve even more. So Toro Rosso going from strength to strength as they have done in the last two episodes. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be quite intriguing. But here, anyway, at Monza, the Temple of Speed, hopefully we can cause an upset for the Ferrari guys and also for the rest of them and have another good race for ourselves. Obviously, Alonso had a bit of a tough time at the end of the Belgian Grand Prix, so hopefully this time around, for the team's sake, both of us can finish strong here. But first of all, we need to see how we line up on the grid, so let's go to qualifying then for Saturday.
The pit lane will be open shortly, which means it's nearly time for qualifying for the Italian Grand Prix here in Monza. When it comes to getting lap time out of this circuit, it's traditionally been about maximising top speed. Do you simply remove as much downforce as possible, hang on into the corners and max out down the straights?
Top speed is a key factor for this circuit. Even if you can achieve the same lap time as someone running less wing than you, chances are you'll find overtaking difficult if you have too much drag.
Right, so here we go then, barreling towards turn 1 here in qualifying 1 here on Saturday. Try and make it through into Q2. We're on the super soft tyres, so not going to try anything funny with the tyre compound. And to be honest, here at Italy, much like the Belgian Grand Prix really, there's no use to do anything kind of clever with the tyre strategy and quali to the race, because it is a very, non-abrasive circuit, so we don't need to worry about the tyre wear there. So we do get through into Q2 very easily there, and actually the performance is looking really good. Alonso there in P2, myself in P4 though, so very strong first showing in Q1. Surprised to see Sebastian Vettel there in P1. Once again, the Ferrari cars, for some reason, despite them not looking too great on the performance chart as of late, the last two episodes, remember Belgium, Vettel was the one on pole position. They're looking really strong for some reason at these power circuits, I guess, despite them not even having that much power on the performance chart on the engine. So I don't know, really, I don't really have much of an explanation for that, but there you go. They're looking pretty good for their home race for now, but hopefully we can try and upset that. You can see on our flying lap then in Q2, navigating Ascari and then towards Parabolica, and then for the last corner, chuck it in as hard as we dare. And obviously now with Season 3, these cars really stick through, but I've run quite low wings here for my standards at least. I think I'm running 4.4 here, so the car did have a bit of understeer to it through most of these corners, but across the line then up into P6 there. And then as we go on to the end of the session, at the moment I'm still safe in the top 10. Alonso was actually outside the top 10 right until the end of the session, and then as he crossed the line, he became safe and got in to the top 10 shootout there. And I was looking pretty fine. The lap times compared to P11 were pretty good, so I thought, okay, I'm pretty safe here. But little did I know, right at the end of the session, at the death of it, Max Verstappen comes out of nowhere. I didn't even see that he was below me. He comes out of nowhere to then pit me. And so quite frustratingly, this weekend starts off with a bit of a disaster, as I'm in P11 then for the Italian Grand Prix grid. And you know what that's going to mean as well, is that the top 10 unfortunately is going to have that qualifying glitch where if you don't make it into the top 10, the top 10 are simulated essentially off what they have as a performance in Season 1. So Alonso, who usually is at the sharp end for this entire season in qualifying, is probably going to be a little bit down the order in the top 10. So both McLarens of us we're going to be down the order. So comparing to the Belgian Grand Prix where we started in P3 and P2, we're going to be a little bit further back, both of us, and we're going to have to try and make some places up in the race itself. So a bit of a calamity at the very start of the weekend. Hopefully we can try and turn that around though in the race. The strategy will be a bit simple, but our car should be theoretically pretty damn quick. It's just a mistake by me not to go out again, and I didn't find enough time on the table at first. And then Alonso, well, that's just a simulated glitch, unfortunately. So let's go into Sunday then onto the full grid and see where Alonso lines up, and more importantly, where everyone else goes.
The Italians love their cars and they love their racing. And of course, they love it here at Monza. Home race for Ferrari, of course, who've had 18 wins here since 1950. But there's not been so much luck for the locals in the cockpit recently. The last Italian driver to win this race was back in 1966. So what now? I think it's time to make some more history here today. We're 12 miles northeast of Milan for today's Grand Prix at a Monza circuit where we can expect top speeds of around 215 miles per hour. 11 corners on this 3.6 mile track, with 7 of those coming in the form of chicanes. And with a good slipstream and DRS open, there should be plenty of opportunity for some passing here today. Joining me for the Grand Prix once again is Anthony Davidson. Let's talk about the engineer. They're starting towards the back of the field today in a car that is fast, so they'll be disappointed, won't they?
It's not a nice feeling, I promise you. They've got a quick car underneath them, but they've got onto the grid today and they need a pair of binoculars to see the start lights. They'll be desperate for a good start to make up for some of that deficit.
With that then, let's run through the grid order. Kimi Räikkönen starts today from pole position, and starting alongside in P2 is Sebastian Vettel. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Ricciardo, Magnussen, Max Verstappen and Perez, Grosjean, Gasly, Ocon and Fernando Alonso. The engineer, Hamilton, Carlos Sainz and Hartley, Bottas, Sirotkin, Marcus Ericsson and Lance Stroll, Hülkenberg. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Charles Leclerc rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Right, so it's showtime here on Sunday, and unfortunately you saw there by the racing grid order, Fernando Alonso did qualify in P10, so the qualifying glitch really coming in quite strong there. So very bad start to the weekend then for myself and Fernando, P10, P11, but from here we have a free choice of tyres. We're still going to end up starting on the super softs there, so like I said, really at this circuit, just like Belgium, it doesn't really matter if you qualified outside the top 10 in terms of the free choice of tyre decision, because I'm going to start on the fastest compound available anyway, and we're going to be able to do a one-stop on soft tyres, I think. It'll be interesting to see if the others around me are going to also be able to do that, or will they go to the medium tyres? If they do, we might be on a faster compound then than them at the end of the race on lower fuel, so that could be quite good. But from P11 and P10, it's maximum recovery, and let's just see how far up the order we can go. Hopefully, though, unlike other circuits, this should be a pretty easy place to pass in a straight line, and we know how good the car is in a straight line. Drag reduction updates, the engine power is great, so I think this could be quite a fun one for both me and Fernando. So let's get into this then as we go to those 5 red lights for the Italian Grand Prix. 27 laps here around Monza today. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a great start there for Fernando Alonso, a very slow one for myself, and a stonking start there for Hamilton on the right hand side. I'm being mugged off here now. We're being overtaken by 2 other cars as well, the Renault and the Toro Rosso. Brendan Hartley dives it down the inside. I've been pinched in here and boxed in on the left hand side behind Hamilton and alongside the Williams of I think Sirotkin there, the Russian in the Williams car. So we're down to P15, P16. It's an absolute calamity disaster of a start here at the Italian Grand Prix. We're down to P16. We've lost 5 positions in the start there, being boxed in, and I just can't do much into turn 1 there. I had nowhere to go behind Hamilton, but then even worse is the traction I got, and Leclerc was just able to very easily waltz past me there, and so now I'm trying to fend off and trying to attack the Russian around the outside. We tried it on the inside there, but we're going to have to go to the left, and still he puts up a good fight, and still I'm in P16 somehow, and we're getting towards the last third of the lap. I can't quite believe it now, so we're going to have to open up the rich mix there and the overtake mode and make that pass swiftly up into P15 now. Let's hope we can make some move on here. So we've got yellow flags up ahead, and that's going to help us. Gasly off there on circuit, and a big train now. Yellow flags though, I can't overtake anyone, so we have to lift off and just let Leclerc by there. But you can see a mega train now, so can we make a big old dive into Parabolica to help us out down the inside of 1 and 2 cars there. It's Carlos Sainz, the Renault. Down the inside we go, and on the exit going to get a good enough run on Hamilton to maybe re-overtake him there. I don't know what on earth Hamilton had for breakfast here, but he had an amazing start. But you can clearly see in the end the Mercedes is no match for the McLaren now in a straight line there. So that's why I was surprised even more at Hamilton's start, because the Mercedes car we know is so slow in a straight line now these days. As we now go around the outside of the Force India, Ricciardo shoved off into the gravel, and so from what was a piss poor start is now a really good recovery, because we're already up into P10 then. So a great recovery, and now it could be P9 as we fake to the right and then go to the left down the inside of the Aussie man who's really struggling in the Red Bull Renault powered car. And now we're right on the back of Brendan Hartley in the Toro Rosso, who's that one car that made that amazing dive down the inside of turn 1. So fair play to him for actually getting up this high from the get-go. But now we're going to try and get past him if we can, but at the moment he's given us a bit of an issue and putting up a good fight there, and that also might invite Ricciardo to come back a little bit. But in the end we are going to open up the hot lap mode also on the ERS into Ascari and get that move done. Side by side will go, but a really nice move there in the end up into P8. So from P16 to P8 in literally almost 1.5 laps there. So really good recovery from myself after a shocking getaway. But the opposite happened to Fernando Alonso. He was already up in the top 7 from the start of lap 1, very much into turn 1. I think he had a good enough entry into turn 1 to be up here, and now he's overtaking the Haas car there of Kevin Magnussen, I think that is, and will be on the back of Max Verstappen in no time. But at the moment, I believe it's Kimi Räikkönen in the lead of this Grand Prix with Sergio Perez in second ahead of Sebastian Vettel. So the Mexican giving a real good fight to the Ferrari guys. And now Alonso, we see, goes around the outside of Verstappen, then finds the speed, and it's a very easy pass. So you can see the McLaren definitely has the pace, really. It just was a bit of a fluke in qualifying, although to say that, Verstappen comes back at Alonso now down the inside of Ascari, so he's going to give him a bit more of a fight than I thought he would do. And of course, going into this race, the performance chart, McLaren and Red Bull were pretty much level pegging, but I'm pretty sure in the end of it, the McLaren car has the better consistent pace, especially in a straight line compared to the Red Bull car, so much probably more to do with the downforce Verstappen had through the corners to keep up with Alonso. But of course, the slipstream also is that powerful around here that even a slower car can try and overtake some faster cars in theory, because if you have DRS especially, you know, it's such a long straight that eventually you are going to catch the car up there if you're close enough on the exit of the previous corner. But Alonso is going to do some good defensive driving then into turns 1 and 2. Verstappen still gives him a run for the money on the exit, but then in the place where Alonso caught him up in the first place, Alonso can get ahead and actually try and get away now from the Dutchman as we now catch up to P7. Romain Grosjean there, already dispatched by Alonso in the opening lap here, taking us to lap 4 to actually catch up to Grosjean there. So 2 laps since we made that move on Hartley, and that's when we finally catch up, where we set a purple lap time in doing so and overtake Grosjean very easily in a straight line there with DRS. Although by the time we catch up to Verstappen here in this fight, I get hit with a huge amount of understeer and then some oversteer on the exit, and that allows Grosjean to come back at me and re-overtake me. He just tries to squeeze me out almost into the wall and the grass there. Meanwhile, up ahead, Magnussen and Verstappen now side by side momentarily. Verstappen's overtaken Magnussen into Ascari. Now Grosjean will have a run at his teammate. Can we make a double pass maybe on the Haas cars if they're caught napping a little bit? Because here goes the Frenchman down the inside of the Dane. Side by side they'll go in Parabolica now. Take it nice and easy. 5th gear. Plant the power now as early as we can. And here we go. Both of them lift off there. I don't know if that was for the yellow flags actually, but somehow I've gotten away with overtaking there in that sector. I won't question it, but we got up the order into P6. And now look at this. Absolutely ridiculous straight line speed on Max Verstappen. We literally cruise past him as if he's like some tiny little city car, and I've got a sports car there, and we're up into P5 now and behind Fernando Alonso in the running. But now as we move through the next couple of laps then on this stint, Toro Rosso making a move on the Haas. That's Hartley on Grosjean there, so both Haas cars are actually losing some pace in this Grand Prix. So very odd actually, because that was always one of the strong suits of the Haas last season when I was at the team, their straight line speed. But ironically, the Honda power Toro Rosso is going very well compared to the Red Bull team, because I think Hartley is literally the lead Red Bull family car. Meanwhile, now you've got Vettel still side by side and at it with Sergio Perez. Perez was in P2. Vettel's trying to spoil the party for him and get back the 1-2 for Ferrari at their home Grand Prix, but Perez is defiant there and defends well from the German. But here he goes now into Ascari, and he's going to hold each other up, so much so that Alonso there is right in the background. Vettel though squeezes Perez out. He's back up into P2. It's a 1-2 once again for Ferrari. Raikkonen nowhere to be seen for now, so he's doing a great job of controlling the race. But here goes Alonso now. Can he have a look at the Force India potentially here and get up into what would be P3 in this Grand Prix? Meanwhile, you can see all the time that I'm in the background there just closing up and closing up. So, you know, if Alonso, Perez and Vettel, if they want to fight any more, that would be great for me. But you can see actually they're coming to the pit lane now for an earlier pit stop. So Alonso and Perez in. Myself, Vettel and Raikkonen will actually continue on for not only just one more lap here on lap 9. I'm planning to go to lap 11 because remember, I'm pitting onto soft tyres. I can tell you that Perez and Alonso are pitting onto mediums. So I'm going for a softer compound tyre. So the more I can take this tyre, the super soft, the better for me, because then my soft tyres will perform better compared to the mediums at the end, because obviously the mediums are the more durable tyre. But look at this now on the exit of the pit lane. That's Raikkonen, and Alonso is going to maybe try and overtake the Iceman here around the outside of turn 1 to the inside for turn 2, and he's got that. And remember, Raikkonen was in the lead of the Grand Prix, so does that mean technically Fernando Alonso has just pulled off a whirly undercut on everyone here, and he's up into first place, technically, of the Italian Grand Prix. That would be quite something. For us, then, I don't know what that actually means in terms of the running order, because you can see I've actually closed up quite a fair bit to Sebastian Vettel in those 2 laps on lap 11 as we pit in now for our soft tyres, or my soft tyres. I think Vettel might still be going on mediums, I think that was on the Ferrari pit stop there, but we're going to strap on the yellow wall tyres. But of course Perez was already ahead of us anyway, so it's not like he can undercut us anymore. But you know, my pace was very promising to the point where I caught Vettel, so I think we might be safe from Perez really. It's really just a case of the McLaren performance is kind of showing finally in clean air rather than maybe the tyres, because we come out in P4 well ahead of Sergio Perez. Vettel P3 now, Raikkonen P2, and McLaren P1 with Alonso. So we sandwiched the Ferrari cars quite literally in 1 and 4 with them in 2 and 3. So I think that was actually less so the undercut really. It was maybe just Alonso finally getting the hammer down and showing that alien-like pace finally in clean air. And actually you can see here, the way I close up on Sebastian Vettel now with DRS and ERS overtake mode, you can clearly see the McLaren car has all the pace in the world. It really was just a big blip in the system for the way me and Fernando qualified here. And so we're up into P3 just about as we really ring the neck of the car in full opposite lock on the exit of Ascari there to keep the thing in a straight line. But now, saying that though, Raikkonen does try and attack Alonso into turn 1 and has a little look around the outside. So that pass on Vettel may have just been Vettel turning down the engine a tad, and maybe Raikkonen is pushing his engine harder to try and catch Alonso, because here we go now, DRS open, he's waltzed past Alonso up into P1. Like I said earlier, it doesn't actually matter how fast your car is technically in terms of performance charts, because here at Monza the slipstream is so good that as long as you get in a DRS zone you can keep up with other cars in a straight line. But down to Ascari, it's going to be the other way around for Alonso. He's got the slipstream down the inside, he goes off Ascari, bit of contact made in the front left with Raikkonen there, but he shoves him off a little bit on the exit. But you can see these two battling is going to allow me to get into the fight there, so you can see I'm creeping up with them in P3, just kind of tiptoeing and slowly, silently creeping up, and maybe I can catch Raikkonen or even Alonso kind of unawares. But meanwhile behind, Vettel now being overtaken by Romain Grosjean. A dive down the inside by the Frenchman, and he's very easily up into his P4 there, as Raikkonen now re-overtakes Alonso for a race lead move once again. But clearly there, Vettel very slow compared to the Haas. So, you know, I said maybe he turned down the engine. Maybe he's got a mechanical issue on the car that's slowing him down, because that was a very easy pass then for the Haas car. Now Alonso is back up into the lead. So literally now, what's that been? 3 times already Alonso and Raikkonen have swapped positions. It'll be for another time once more. Raikkonen DRS, he pulls to the inside, and Alonso is defenseless there, as now you can see in the background I'm getting ever closer. But for now, Alonso P2 once more. A little bit of a lock up there from Kimi, but now will Alonso have the pace maybe on this long swooping curve on the right? No DRS on this curve, remember, so just pure engine power is going to decide this drag race towards the chicane, and Kimi's going to go defensive to the inside there. Alonso on the right to make the move for the lead of the Grand Prix. Back to our POV, watching this fight from our perspective, you can see just really wrestling the car through and trying to go as fast as we can as the tyre wear kicks in a little bit. And like I said in the qualifying portion of this video, my setup definitely has induced a little bit of understeer in this car, so having to really make sure I get the corners as precise as I can, and sometimes having to really forcefully make the car go where I want to. But now Kimi, will he have enough speed to keep up with Alonso now through Ascari and towards Parabolka, or will I catch him up before he gets that DRS off Alonso? As we swing through onto the back straight towards Parabolka, then overtake mode on ERS, rich mix going. We've got plenty of fuel still to burn in this Grand Prix with 9 laps remaining in this thing. Into Parabolka, then down to high to just save some ERS battery power, then momentarily back up into overtake mode now as we got up the gears into 7th and 8th. Now we will have DRS. Raikkonen, I believe, will also have DRS off Alonso. So this will have to, well, we're going to have to hope that the McLaren car has the speed against a Ferrari with DRS, and we do so down the right-hand side there. Kimi squeezed us a little bit towards the grass, but that's all fair play, and he's still there on my inside, actually, so he does really well. He actually hops over the curb there and really squeezing me now towards the gravel. So Raikkonen really not wanting to give up P2. He's lost P1, but he's kind of now too stubborn about P2, but eventually we will just find the speed there. You can see a straight without DRS there. I'm able to power pass very easily, but to be fair, Raikkonen on lap 19 now is right up my gearbox and does stick with me pretty damn well, but I'm more kind of now focusing on P2 rather than P1, to be honest. So I think it's only a matter of time before we can get away from Raikkonen. It might just be right now, because you can see on the exit I get a really good one, and looking behind me I think Raikkonen is not going to be with us. Yeah, he's already lost a little bit of time there. So now it's all about focusing on Fernando Alonso. We've got 7 laps left in this Grand Prix, And once again, like the beginning of the Belgian Grand Prix last time out, it's a 1-2 for McLaren. So it's time for another McLaren duel maybe here on Italian soil. And now in some proper clean air onto lap 22 for the first time, able to really show the pace of the McLaren, getting fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. But you can see on the right hand side there, bring up the heads-up display for my tyre wear. A little bit concerned about that. The tyre wear is already at the yellow section on the heads-up display. So that's the only caveat to this entire fight, is that I'm on softer tyres that are going to wear out faster than Alonso. So I might be losing some pace as we go on through this Grand Prix. So the earlier I get this move done, the better. So here we now go on to lap 23. DRS is available now. Within 1 second, we are going to fly towards Alonso now, and we're going to go breezing past him on the left-hand side there, and we're up into first place of the Italian Grand Prix. So what a recovery this would be. Remember, we were P16 at this very part of the circuit on lap number 1, and 24 laps later, we're up into first place. That is a really good recovery, and really, at the moment, this entire situation of us being 1 and 2 in this race is amazing. But now, we still have some fighting to do, because remember, the slipstream is going to be still there for Alonso, and he's going to be well within reach of making a move. And here he goes now, move to the outside of Ascari there. He's going to go for a big dive, lock up there for Alonso. He just about makes it through. He brake checks us a tiny bit midway through Ascari, as Alonso off circuit there has to control the car, and I have to slam on the brakes halfway through that corner to make sure I don't shove into the back of him and lose my front wing off there. So a little bit tense already now in this fight. Already only one swap has happened, and it's already got a little bit too frosty for my liking there, because I had a bit of a heart-to-mouth moment in the middle of Ascari, because usually that's the point where you're starting to feed in the throttle instead of dabbing on the brakes and having a lock up there midway through the corner. So now we're going to have to try and re-overtake him into turn 1. Alonso stays to the left-hand side, so we're on the inside of him into turn 1. Lock up on the front right, and we go a little bit wide. Tap ties with Alonso. He goes a little bit deep, though, into the second part, so he's straight on the car a little bit faster than he can there, but a little bit of a warning of collision, so hopefully that's the most contact we make in this entire Grand Prix. But here we go now around the outside of the curve. It gets very, very close to the grass and his front left tyre there. We make it to the inside, but he's still holding the line. He does really well, Alonso, and he squeezes me now towards the gravel. This is a great fight, but Alonso is putting up such a good defensive drive here for P1 at the moment. I just can't get past him there in that section of the circuit. We have to wait now until the very simple straight, I guess, compared to doing it in the corner here at Monza and trying to overtake him that way. But for now, Alonso keeps up in P1, and Kimi is not too far behind. So I don't want this fighting to carry on to a point where we're going to let Raikkonen back into this fight, because for now, both of us have dropped him well and truly for third place there. So I really want it to be at least still a remaining 1-2, not like what happened in the Belgian Grand Prix, where Alonso fell away very dramatically at the end of the Belgian Grand Prix. So as we spark away into Barabolica, we're going to size up another move here and psych ourselves up. This time, though, we're a lot closer to Alonso than the previous lap, so this shouldn't be such a difficult one into turn 1. In fact, it won't even involve turn 1 as we pull through on the right-hand side there, and it's like overtaking down the right-hand lane of a motorway, really, and we're up into P1 once again. You can see on the right-hand side, we don't have a lot of ERS deployment left over, so we're going to have to watch out for that as we wrestle the car through Ascari on the end of lap 26. That lack of ERS is going to hurt us here, as Alonso is on the left-hand side now. And will he try a big dive on the outside? He goes for it, and he's got the wider line. And as we look through and peer through the trees, Alonso is back up into P1. I think that's the ERS making a huge difference here. They don't have any deployment as we cross the line for another lap, and the final lap of the Grand Prix here as Alonso squeezed me towards the left-hand side. But as we go into turn 1, the electrical energy still not deploying. At the end of the straight there, Alonso has the advantage, able to dive a little bit better into turn 1, and he's up into first place. We're down to second now. We're going to have to try and recompose ourselves and also at the same time save enough battery power to make a last kind of lap attack, really, at the very end of this Grand Prix. So at the moment, we're in overtake mode, but look at that ERS bar. That is pathetic. No deploying whatsoever. Although Alonso, look at this. Alonso goes really slow into that chicane there and a little bit deep there as I also lose the back end. So I think everyone is facing a bit of tyre wear here, surprising at the very end of the Italian Grand Prix. But you can see I'm constantly fiddling around with my ERS, trying to cobble together any kind of electrical power to allow me to make an overtaking move on Alonso, the last dying stages of this Grand Prix. But now, look at this. The very thing I did not want has happened. Raikkonen is right up my gearbox now, so hopefully I can at least minimum keep P2, but I'm thinking more about P1 as we literally wrestle the car through on the exit there, going full opposite lock through the exit of Ascari to now close up on Alonso to the last corner then of the last lap of the Grand Prix. Do we have anything left to give as we go dive it really deep into Barabolica? We plant the power down, use every last bit of electrical power we have, but across the line it's not going to be enough, and Fernando Alonso will win the Italian Grand Prix, but we will come home still in a good P2 recovery from what was P16, remember, on lap number 1, and it's a 1-2 for McLaren.
McLaren have pulled it off. They've won in spectacular fashion here today. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here.
The difference was clearly in the strategy. You could tell they'd done a lot of work on the pit wall to really optimise each stint and get the most out of the tyres. And it highlights just how much of a team sport this really is. And the credit to the driver as well, though. There's no good having a well-oiled machine behind the scenes without a talented hand on the wheel, of course.
And look at that, they're making their way out onto the podium now. Great race from the McLaren team, and I'm really happy to see them there on the top step of the podium.
So even though we've been defeated by Fernando Alonso there in that battle here at Monza, we got to be very happy about that. From P10 and P11 on the grid, we got 1 and 2 respectively. That's really great to see. You know, it's a net gain of 10 positions each for Alonso and myself. And for me, remember, like I said, I was down to P16 at the very start of lap 1. So to get back into P2, very, very happy with that. So in the Drivers' Championship then, Alonso obviously claws back 7 points there. Verstappen does well to actually get ahead of Perez in the end, despite him being quite slow in the first part of that race, and I guess he creeped up a little bit further later on in the Grand Prix. Constructors wise, obviously we get a gap to Red Bull Racing there, and it all stays put in terms of the points, and it all stays put in terms of the positions. But I think Toro Rosso might have gained some more points on Mercedes there, so if Toro Rosso continue to be consistent, they could try and mount a challenge on Mercedes and Sauber late on into this season. But let's go into the final interviews then with Claire before we round out the episode.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy. Did you struggle to get through all that traffic today?
Obviously the power unit was working really well, so I'm going to compliment that on the left hand side. Is no struggles to get through the traffic today.
You must be happy with the result today.
Now, although I am happy with P2 from where we were on lap 1, still in the end, no one likes being beaten by their teammate to the win, so I'm going to go with no comment on that one.
Things look close between you and your rival for a bit, but you came out on top, didn't you?
Going to go full egotistical here with this one about Kimi and go to the right hand side answer, showmanship.
That was an epic battle today. How do you think this will play out?
And once again, for the second question about Kimi, you're going to go for the right-hand side answer, a bit more of a showy kind of answer, get the ego kind of really out there.
Great. Well, that's everything.
And so with that, a very exciting Italian Grand Prix weekend comes to an end, and a very successful one for the McLaren team. Really always, you know, it is annoying not to get the win, but in the end, it's really nice to see a 1-2 for the team. It just shows how good the car has become, and also we get a bonus of 600 points on R&D there for getting 40 points or more in the championship, I believe that was, for the sponsor team goal. So that's really good for us, because that means you can see on the top right there, we have a shed load of points now. So I was thinking probably I'm going to have to not spend R&D points again here at the Italian Grand Prix weekend, but you know what, we have over 3,000 now. I think it's worth to spend one more upgrade and get one ultimate upgrade on the car, and then after this race I think wait until and see if there's going to be a regulation change, and then we can strategically spend points on whatever we need to spend them on. So we're going to do one last ultimate upgrade here, the ultimate engine upgrade I was thinking about. Had a bit of hesitation though, so we went back and thought about it a little bit here and there, but in the end I did go for the ultimate engine upgrade. So our engine's already the best engine on the grid. It's going to be the best, no arguments whatsoever now after that upgrade comes in for the Japanese Grand Prix, and that's going to be a really big booster for McLaren, especially even after I leave. If the regulation doesn't change for the engine, they're going to be in a very good position there. But now I feel like we've got still a decent amount of points left. We'll now save these for the rest of the season for that regulation change that hopefully will come to kind of shake things up in the series. But guys, if you did enjoy this episode, be sure to smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, do get subscribed for weekly 4-on content. I've been Aarava, home show today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.